Hey guys, Mr. Morton here today, and we are going to talk about how to multiply two mixed numbers. So, the first thing that we want to do for our area model is to draw that rectangle. And then we are going to split our mixed numbers up into a whole number and a fraction, and draw lines separating those two. Then, look at our next number and do the exact same thing on the left-hand side of that box. Whole number first, and then our fraction, 3/5, and draw a line to represent that split. Okay, just like a multiplication chart, what we're going to do is we are going to connect and multiply 2 times 1 in our first box, which 2 times 1 is 2. I'm going to circle that because we are going to use it later. Okay, and then we're going to move on to our next box on the right and multiply 2 times 5/7. 5/7. Okay, we know that we can make that whole number a fraction by putting it over 1 and then multiplying across, and we're going to get 2 times 5, which is 10. And then 1 times 7, which is 7, so we get 10/7, and once again I'm circling that because we are going to use that later. Moving down to our bottom box, we have got 1 times 3/5. We know any number times 1 is itself. And so we're going to get 3/5 right there. Circling that for later. And then we are going to move to that next box and multiply those two fractions. We get 3/5 times 5/7. We can cross simplify here. You see the 5 on the bottom of the first fraction, the denominator is a 5, and on the second fraction we've got a numerator that is a 5. So if we cross simplify here, we can divide both those numbers by 5 and make both of those a 1. Okay, so then we multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 7 is 7. Circling that for what we are about to do next. Okay, moving forward, if we look at that box, all those numbers that are circled are our partial products, and what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and add all of those up, because if we add all of those up, you're going to get the product or your answer to a multiplication problem. Okay. We've got a big problem though when we go to add those, and that is we know that we can't add fractions that do not have the same denominator. So looking through this, we see that the 7 and the 5 are our denominator, so we're looking for a common denominator. You see that I have listed 5 and 7 up there, and we are going to list our multiples for 5 up at the top until we find something in common. Okay, you'll notice I stopped at 35, and then I go down and I list my multiples for 7. Now somewhere in here you're going to find a number that is the same on both lines. Okay, you see I circled the 35, so we need to get 10/7, an equivalent fraction for 10/7 that has 35 as the denominator. You'll see me setting up my problems here. We're not sure what we're multiplying these guys by, so I draw boxes here so that we can input numbers, because we know that we have to get to 35. Okay, you'll see me put 35 on all of those. Now, looking here, what do I have to multiply 7 by to get to 35? That's what we're looking at. So 7 times what is 35? And we know that as 5. Now what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top as well. And then we know 10 times 5 is 50, and that is our equivalent fraction. The next, you see I do 7 down at the bottom because we already know that we're multiplying it with 5. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. I multiply across, and 3 times 5 is 15. Then I look at our next fraction, and we're multiplying across by 7 to get 21/35. Now, making some more room on our board. Dropping my erase or my marker. And now I'm going to rewrite these just so we have a clear understanding that what we are adding up here. So we've got 50/35 plus 21/35 plus 15/35. Okay, all of these have the same denominator, and so I can simply add all of those up. And you'll notice I put the 2 because we don't need to do that. That's a whole number. We just bring it on over to our final problem. Okay, so looking at our numerators, we know that when we add fractions, the denominators stay the same and the numerators are the only things that change. So I'm going to add 50, 21, and 15. Okay, I brought my 2 over because we know that we're gonna at least have 2. Okay, and I know my denominator is gonna stay the same, so then I start adding my numerators. 50 plus 21, 1 plus 0 is 1, 2 plus 5 is 7, then I add that final 15 on and get 86. Okay, now here's the fun part, 2 and 86/35. Something is terribly wrong with that, and it's because what? Improper fraction, right? And so in my class, what do I say? But get off my lawn, okay? We don't allow improper fractions here, so we are going to change that improper fraction into a mixed number and then add that back to our 2. So I take 86 divided by 35. We know 35 is close to 30, so if we multiply it by 2, we get 70. 35 times 2 is 70. We subtract, and we are going to get 16. Now, that is our remainder, but we have to do something with it because we don't put remainders anymore. We have to get a fraction out of that. So we are going to take that 16 and divide it by 35. Okay, and we know a division sign is the same as a fraction line. So we are going to come up and rewrite that as 16/35. And we have just made that improper fraction into a mixed number. Now, one last final step is the fact that that is not our final answer. We've got to take that 2 that we had over there and add it back to what we just did. So how do we add those two numbers up? Now I've got a whole number and a mixed number. I just add the whole numbers together and bring that fraction over. And 4 and 16/35 is our final answer.